Hello, I'm Robert, and you're welcome here in my biz little shop. On today's episode of What's on My Workbench, it's in the same category as scraps. These bellies that come off of the complete hides that I use for making my ranch hand belts. It's a finished leather. It comes out. It's got a nice satin finish on it, and trying to come up with projects for this. And I guess I could make nice sheaths or holsters out of those. But I've got a different idea, and I think it makes a nice gift. It also, if you're setting up for maybe a craft show, it'll make a nice entry level project for someone that maybe wants to buy something from you but doesn't want to go all in on a $100 item or such. So let's get over here on the workbench and I'll show you what I'm doing. It's really a pretty simple project, but I'm going to go a couple different ways on it to dress it up some. I appreciate you taking time to be with me in the shop today. All right, so here's that belly. This is black, and here on the thicker part, 12 ounces here. Like I said, this is the belly, and I cut the top part of it off to cut strips to make belts out of, and those are the belts that I don't hand sew. It's really just a cut belt that I finish on the edges. I put either a solid brass or a stainless steel buckle on it. I make a keeper out of the leather itself, and it's a belt that I can then sell, at a price that competes with, some of the stores, out there, not to name them. So, but what I'm going to do with this is, when I look at it, the back side of it, this has got some areas here that have a lot of stretch. Like here's a cut from when they removed the hide, and I don't like to use this to make knife sheaths. For one, it's 12 ounces thick, and unless it's a pretty heavy duty knife, by the time you double that up, I don't know, maybe it's my own issue with that. But what I'm going to make some coasters. We're going to make some that are pretty simple, and then I'm going to make some that are more complex. And I've toyed with the idea of having coasters for the last 2 summers in my booth, but in my mind I was stuck on having a round coaster. Well, I don't have a clicker press. You can go online and you can buy coaster material for probably not a big amount of money, but this belly here, I think I can yield enough coasters out of this that'll help pay for a good chunk of what the hide cost. So enough talking about that there. What I've done is I've set my, I decided a 3-inch, I didn't like that as a square coaster. I've set my strap cutter at 3.5 inches. And to start, I'm just going to cut strips. I'm going to ignore whatever the condition on the back is, and we'll just pitch out the ones that don't look good. And so we'll just cut this with the strap cutter. This area here where there's like a little flap on the back. It's kind of in the way. You know what? Let me cut that flap off of there. It's not going to be a spot where a coaster is kept from anyway. And I have already, earlier this year, I had a couple of other bellies that were from ranch hand hides as well, or the hides that I used to make the ranch hand belt. And I've sold a few of them. So there is demand for that. And they were just a simple square with rounded corners on it. So I'll finish cutting this in strips and then I'll be right back. All right, so I finished cutting the strips. I've got a couple small pieces, but I mainly got 3 strips out of this. These are 3.5 inches wide. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'll look at the back here and figure out what's not going to be very good. And I don't like any of this here. So I'm going to trim that off. Don't get rid of it yet. I'm going to do some testing on that. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to do is look here and see. I've got a scratch here I don't want to use. But I'm just going to now turn and I'm going to cut this way on here. So in essence, I'm just making 3.5-inch squares like that. Now, when I do this, if you're not careful, you have a tendency to kind of pull the strap cutter one way or the other, and you get off of square. So what I do is every once in a while, I'll lay my square on here, and if I need to true it up, I will. Kind of hard to organize, try to stay on the screen here so you can see it. Let me try a different angle. Every once in a while, I'll lay my straight edge and my square on here just to make sure that I'm still good. And obviously, if you don't have a strap cutter or don't want to use it that way, you could line this out and do it this way. But I found that just little slight variances of 1/16 of an inch or even a 32nd of an inch, it really takes away from the look of your coasters. Especially, I'll show you how I wrap them for sale when I'm done. So I'm just going to cut down through here. Not too worried about the back. I'll cull out the ones that don't look good when I get to that point. Like here's a spot here and here's a spot there. So here I'll bring my straight edge out here and I will cut that off. Now we've got some numbers here that are somewhat unavailing here towards production, so I'll just line up here. I'm going to be rounding the corner, so if I catch a little bit of that, it's okay. So I find, well, there's some bird going crazy out there. So I find that if I push in the middle here with my thumb more than pull here, it seems like it stays square better. And I've been just grabbing that little square that I use about every third one and checking it. And once in a while I shave a little bit off of it. And, you know, like I said, you could do it this way. I just find that the strap cutter makes it easier than trying to measure each one. Hard to get them all the same regardless. A clicker press obviously would be the easiest way, but I don't have a clicker press or the dies, and by the time you spend the money on it, kind of the point of this was to try to, you know, get some money out of leather that is just eating space in the shop and not providing any return on the investment here. Looks like off by about a 32nd here. I guess the other part of the equation is, do you leave the corners square or do you round them? And I round them, but I've got already an investment in doing that. Here's what I'm shooting for. A little bit of burnishing work on it, a little bit of edging work, not a whole lot of either one of those. So here are my squares that I cut. I think there's about 30 here out of that. And to me, it's already got finish on the two surfaces here. The edges, I'm going to address that a little bit here, but I'm just going to take my corner tool And, you know, obviously if you had to hand cut all these corners, then this becomes less fun. But if maybe you're doing it just as a few gifts, you're only making, a couple dozen of them, then it's really not that big of an investment in time on that. This corner tool, I mean, it wasn't free by any means. I can't remember now what I paid for them. I'm going to say it wasn't cheap. It was like maybe $30 for each one. Is that right? Someone's probably bought some not long ago and give me an idea on the price on that. So I'm just going to go through here. I'll cut a couple here and then I'll show you what we're going to do beyond that. Hope everybody's having a good day today. We're in the middle of the work week here. I had a video that I recorded for tomorrow, but I think I'm going to wait and play that on Saturday. So this will probably be my Wednesday video. And I'm just kind of flipping them over, checking them out as I'm working on them here, and I'll just pitch any of them that don't look good. We may do a little testing on some. I should probably get the white cutting board out here. I keep using this black one because it's just handy to have here. It's probably hard for you to see cutting black leather on a black cutting board. Okay, you can see it doesn't take very long and we've got a start to those coasters. Now I'm just going to run a number 2 bronze edge all the way around these. This leather that I purchased here, it supposedly doesn't transfer color, and I've had good luck on my test. There's my number 2 front and back, and I think I told people about it, but I basically same belt, same jeans, 2 weeks hiking and all kinds of different things, and I got no color rub off. So I feel pretty confident that using a belt as someone, would normally use a belt, they're not going to have an issue. I was a little concerned about maybe this exposed edge, getting some color off of that on a coaster. So I did use it, and I kept it on top of a white piece of paper and didn't get any color transfer. So I don't know if you feel like you need to, warn people that they, need to be careful about where they place it. That was my biggest concern about a coaster is, having someone come back and be upset because it maybe didn't, or maybe it caused a stain or something. So you want to do some testing on it. But what I'll probably do is once I have these edges done is I'll put just a quick coat of Resin around there. And I think that I feel comfortable with it. Like I said, I've tested it myself. So, I mean, if you wanted, you can see here, it doesn't take very long to have, this coaster almost finished if you're not going to do anything else with it. So let's just take these 4 and we'll go to the next step on these. And I find this leather really gets a nice burnish pretty easy here. I don't know if you can see the sheen there. See if I can get it reflected right. So this leather gets a pretty good sheen there just really quickly. This is just water. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. and it's got a nice sheen to it. So anyway, you can see here the burnish looks nice, and if you wanted to, you could call it done. You could take some twine like I did here, and I just bundled them 4 at a time. Find a price that sells. If it's let's say it's $10 for this, so you have $10, and we've got 8 sets of 4 off that one belly. 8 sets of 4, yeah. So that'd be $80. $80 towards the $120, I think that is what that hide cost that you recouped by making coasters. Obviously, you need to get creative and come up with other things as well. So, you know, spend a little bit of time to make these coasters is one thing, but let's go beyond just a simple coaster. Let's see what else we can do with that. Well, I'm going to do a few more of these, then I'll come back and I'll show you. About 30 seconds for each one on the burnish. Here's all the corners. There's 32 of them. It took me 12 minutes to cut the corners off. It took me 15 minutes to run the number 2 Ron's edger on all of them. And about 30 seconds a piece on these. I don't have them all burnished yet, so I have burnished 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. 17, and then here's the balance of them. So, obviously, as I was saying a minute ago, you could call that done. You could wrap these up. I know it'll be Christmas before you know it, but I think that makes a nice stocking stuffer or a gift for someone at work. You know, a 4-pack of them. You could, if you go to artisan shows, I think you could put these out there. Obviously, the more traffic, you know, the better opportunity to sell them. But to me, it's a way of recouping expense out of that hide of leather. If they were $4 a piece, I mean, that's what I say. There's 32 of them, $4 a piece. Is that $128? Yeah, I think that's $128. That was the cost of the hide, plus then you have the belts out of it. Here's another way of looking at it. So as I sell projects, I take that money and I buy more tools and more leather. That's kind of where I've been for the last 2 years. It's a hobby business for me, so I'm not having to pay bills out of that. But what you could do is you could say, hey, I want to buy a clicker press. And maybe you take your scraps and you do that. And when you sell those items, you put that into its own little kitty. And then when you get to the point where you've saved the money up, then you can pay for it. Or you can use it as a way to pay back that item. So there was one other thing or a couple other things I wanted to show you here. I had an idea. This leather actually takes tooling pretty well. You can get some moisture into it. It's pretty slow, but I put a sweaty cup on it to see how well it took tooling, and it does pretty well. I mean, I guess you could just go around here with a groover. I'm using a wing divider, and you could put a little detail edge around here, just to give it a little bit of a different look to it. You could include one with your logo on it to clients when they purchase something, so it's on their desk and maybe they all think about you when it comes time to buy something. takes the stamp really well. You could pitch one of those in with each one of your orders so that it ends up maybe on the desk in the office. You could take this here and you could do some tooling around it as well. It would be a way to use up some of your vegetable tan leather as well. I thought I would take a break in the middle of these coasters that I'm working on, and I wanted to talk about something. So I hate bringing it up and talking about it, but this reminded me of it here. I was drinking out of the Rick's Outdoors cup, but he reached out to me and he said, I looked the other day and I wondered why I hadn't been seeing videos from you. I was unsubscribed. So if you would take just a moment and make sure that you're subscribed, I'd appreciate it if you would. Obviously, if you hit the bell icon, you'll know whenever I post a video and be notified on that. But let's get back to these coasters here. All right, so I have finished burnishing every one of these black coasters here. And it takes, I guess if you add in the cutting of it and the corners and the edge and the burnish, there's probably 3 minutes a piece for each one of these here. And I was showing some examples of different things that you can do with the black ones here, and I had a couple here that I put the maker's mark on, but they're mixed in here. But it was hard for me to show you some different ideas on the black coaster, and maybe I should have cut more brown so that you could see it a little bit better. But I went ahead and I had some veg tan leather here that is pretty close to the same. It's 11 ounce. This leather here was more like 12 ounces. And it just took a couple of minutes here to make a couple different ones. You got the basket weave here, just a couple of plain ones here. And my fingernails are filthy. A floral here. It just took just a couple of minutes to do that. So whatever your trademark is, you could do. Or, I did some mountains here because I'm in the mountains, and if people come and visit, maybe some coasters to remind them of their visit to the mountains would be interesting. So let me turn the camera around here and we'll wrap this up. Well, there you go. A way to use up scraps? Absolutely. A way to maybe have something in your booth or as a gift that is a low cost, another good option for that. So these coasters could be used for a lot of different things. And I said earlier, if it's just about having a coaster to sell, you can buy pre-cut coasters and not go through the work. But for me, I like using up my smaller pieces of leather and trying to generate maybe a little bit of income to go back in the kitty to buy more leather and more tools. And when I did the math on it, if I sold every one of these coasters here for $4 a piece, it almost pays for the hide. Now, obviously, you've got some time involved. I think I invested about an hour here to do that pile of coasters. So one more reminder, if you would be kind to check and see if you're subscribed. If you're not, please subscribe and share and comment. Let me know what you think about today's content. Appreciate you taking time to be within the shop today, but more importantly, I hope you have a great day.